Jubilee Party NDC that was riddled by endless court cases and push and pull between the Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege outrageous faction was finally held today in Ngong Racecourse. That NDC was facing a lot of hurdles by what I can clearly say were state-sponsored blocks that were erected on the way to stop that highest decision-making organ of the party to be held, or rather to operate, which is supposed to help the party take a political direction. And William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua successfully spied on Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege to destabilize the Jubilee Party in what was seen as a ploy to maybe provoke Uhuru Kenyatta's stand as far as politics is concerned. But Uhuru Kenyatta held his ground that is not going to leave the party. Uhuru actions then painted a picture of a man who was determined not to leave the party to William Ruto, with himself coming out to chase the police from the Jubilee headquarters after Sabina Chege and Kanini Kega were accompanied by a contingent of police officers to take over the party offices in Kileleshwa. Many pundits are wondering, why do you think Uhuru Kenyatta is determined to hold the shell of the Jubilee Party that is remaining, even though he left it to collapse when he was having all the presidential powers that he will use to revive the party? That was Jeremiah Kioni addressing some delegates in that place. Uhuru fought many battles, and I saw yesterday the UDA administration went berserk against him in Isiolo, calling him all sorts of names, while Sabina Chege faction were actually trying to swing towards UDA. And the volume has been said because this NDC was largely blocked by the political Jubilee defectors who were defecting to UDA because they believed that Uhuru Kenyatta may actually remove them from the party and they will actually lose those positions. And Uhuru got his way. The NDC that has been held has largely been the Sabina Chege and the Kanini Kega faction trying to make sense of it. Let me say this. Uhuru Kenyatta, this NDC was supposed to be held in Bomas of Kenya, and immediately the organizers decided to go there to book the venue. They were turned away by the management of Bomas, saying that number one, that Bomas event, there is bipartisan talks going on, then a renovation going on for the next 6 weeks, and then the other room had also been booked by a client, in a clear sign that it was a move to block this NDC. So I think there's some three aspects that worked in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta against William Ruto, and that's how he successfully outsmarted the fellows. The first is the choice of picking Ngong Racecourse as the location of that NDC. Now, those people who know Ngong, it borders the areas of Dagoretti and then Kibera, and it's an open field. So the decision to hold it there, even though it has now costed more because they had now to erect the tents and everything, but the decision to settle on location as Ngong Racecourse sent William Ruto back to drawing board. This is because anyone who would want to try to wreak havoc, or rather to cause chaos, there would be a rebuttal from Raila Odinga supporters from the side of Kibra. It is highly possible that they would face a rebuttal And that is why there were reports of trying to block that NDC, or rather even infiltrate, send the police there. It will not have worked, and it will be total chaos. Now, people are open where people thought supporters will rope in. And there was also another option of KCC. There were two other venues that were picked. One was Bomas, there was also KCC, and the other one was the Fungamano House. So I think the organizers, they decided to come away from town, because even in town, people can sponsor violence. In town you can always mobilize some one or two people as another faction of Jubilee, so that as this NDC will be held there, they will also maybe hold some demonstration against the same and cause chaos. So what the state were actually planning before here is a situation where an NDC that is held by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, there's some chaos witnessed there. In case of that, then they will actually say, or rather brand, that Uhuru Kenyatta is actually bringing some chaos. The other second thing is the security. Today in the morning, Uhuru Kenyatta, and he actually played the security trap successfully by himself making an attendance. Yesterday, the reason why UDA were talking about Uhuru Kenyatta in Isiolo and saying the way he should not attend is because they actually didn't want him to attend. And that NDC would not have gone successful were it not that Uhuru Kenyatta was attending. Now, by himself attending, he's entitled to round-the-clock security. Under the office of the former president, he has guaranteed security. And you remember the other time when there was some chaos that started, that were brought at Jubilee headquarters, himself, he went there, he walked there and ordered the police out of that place. So what it did is, in the morning, security was deployed there of 120 police officers. Of course, it was also a bit of, people thought it would be to ban it, or rather to scare people. But the fact that Uhuru Kenyatta was going out and were going to attend it, it left the security officers with no option. So by that, he used the security trap to make sure that that venue is secure. And I can tell you, I was talking to someone who was telling me that, Kevin, even if Uhuru attends there, the UDA administration will still cause chaos. I told him, no. Uhuru Kenyatta was a president in this country for 10 years. And defense chief, commander-in-chief for 10 years. If you do that, you even ni kama utakuwa mkosea hata watu wa jeshi. So you cannot, there was no option away from it. Uhuru Kenyatta had to get that security. And I think it has worked for him because Kindiki is not part of that attack squad. Yes, Kindiki is not part of attack squad. If you remember, during Northern City, there was a highly reported fallout between Kindiki and Rigathi because he did not approve of that extra, that act of attending, of rather attacking the Northern City. And it is on record saying that he did not know where those orders came from and where they were analyzed, why the police were not sent to go to that place. So the security aspect has worked for former president well. First himself attending, and by himself announcing attendance, then that place had to be given round of the clock security. The other third thing is the power of resources. The power of resources. Truth be told, if Kanini Kega faction are to hold any sort of grassroots mobilization or NDC, then they can only be funded by President Ruto. But themselves, they don't have the resources. Now, what you can see in that NDC is opulence and the resource. If you look at those photos, it actually showed you what it has costed. The deco, the photos, the sound, everything. And I have even seen his bloggers are attending it, So that tells you that the other thing that Uhuru has is the power of resources. And the power of resources is because of mobilization. And you know, when you say Raila is going to attend, you know, he easily mobilized. I actually followed a discussion about those who are attending are not ODM, Jubilee members, but they could mobilize. So that is the one thing that is in it. So the question I want to answer finally as I finish this analysis is, why do you think Uhuru is insisting on holding that shell of a party that those gentlemen are saying he should have left, or he should have used presidential powers to maybe revive after Uhuru fallout? People are asking that question, and I will try to answer it with these 4 assertions. Number 1, Uhuru would like to play backroom politics in future. You know what the opponents would actually, Uhuru Kenyatta's critics would actually want is the situation where he's out of the equation. Be it in Mount Kenya or the other regions. Look at Isiolo, I just followed the other day. Governor is Jubilee, Senator is Jubilee, women repeat Jubilee, and some MPs, quite a number of MPs are in Jubilee. But the MCAs are from the other parties. So, one thing Uhuru Kenyatta would actually play is the backroom politics. Remember, as things go now, UDA is on a free fall, and they're not promising so much in terms of deliverables. So when the president will still have a voice and come out and say this and that be done, I think he will still have a chunk of influence even in future, even though he might not be that much active, but will be better Uhuru. Of course, Uhuru is not going to fight, but of course can endorse other candidates. So that's the one reason why he's remaining. Number 2, Jubilee would actually provide entry in Mount Kenya away from the UDA. So whoever the candidate that Azimio would pick for their presidential candidate in the future, his entry to Mount Kenya would largely depend on Jubilee. And because of unmet promises in Mount Kenya, we have been playing clips here of people saying, Heri Uhuru. It means that if Jubilee can actually, I know the party, yes, does not have that much of a stake, but if it can revive its visibility, it can emerge as an entry point for anyone who would want to oppose William Ruto. And I know with the resources, it is always possible. So that's the other reason why he's holding it. I also see a possibility that Uhuru is seeking political immunity from UDA. I'm telling you, the UDA have been attacking Uhuru Kenyatta from all Kenyans and from all corners. And, you know, at many instances, the person that has always come to protect Uhuru Kenyatta is Azimio leader, Raila Odinga. So from what he's doing, he's realized, you know, he has a lot of commercial interests in the country. And that's one of the reasons why Uhuru Kenyatta cannot leave politics. Uhuru cannot leave politics because part of his enterprise, part of his empire, the milk stories that, you know, that Gachagua calls the milkman, they can only be protected by political power. So he's really seeking political immunity, and by making sure that that party still holds there. He will be in the background, but when that party is still affiliated to him, he can still make a way. And Ruto is scared because he thinks that Uhuru Kenyatta is not a pushover. And the person behind the 2027 campaigns was actually Uhuru Kenyatta. With the resources he still have, the only competition for Raila Odinga, for William Ruto to get a very strong competition in the next year's general election, then that competition will take the input of 2 gentlemen in this country, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. One person will help in resource mobilization, the other person can help in the vote mobilization. So that's it. It is highly possible that even if Azimio will settle on Kalonzo or any other candidate, that candidate will need, one way or the other, the backing of Uhuru Kenyatta. And that is why he is also not leaving, because he's realized that, okay, I still around. Jubilee will be used as, it has really been defamed. And I think Uhuru is also getting annoyed that I handed over power to you. Whether you want free or what, I have handed over power to you. You've left the party. You have your own party. So when you want to take over my party, then it borders disrespect. So it's an extension of a man trying to fight for what he rightfully believes belongs to him. And that's what I normally say. Even if Uhuru Kenyatta, there was a fallout between Uhuru and William Ruto. Uhuru Kenyatta is not longer in power. William Ruto, you are the president. I think even Raila has dropped the complaints about your power. So why don't you just move on and leave the discussions about that party? Those people, and I'm wondering, those who are saying the Jubilee has remained a shell of a party are the ones that are defending Kanini, Kega and Sabina Chege to take over the party. So if the party is a shell, then why are we wasting time going after shell? You know, it's really simply not adding up. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my take on how Uhuru Kenyatta played his card against William Ruto.